The three C's when communicating between teachers and parents. Hi, I'm Alicia, entirely psyched, and I am talking to you today about communication. Both communication between educators or teachers and to parents, or parents to teachers. Both are important, and there are three different strategies for you to use to be effective in your communication. First, be clear. Now, teachers, if you are communicating with parents, you want to make sure you're not using a bunch of jargon, acronyms, you're to the point and you're actually making it very clear why you're calling or why you're communicating. Make sure you state that first so there's no question, there's no worry, and you're just being clear with why you're making that contact with the parents. If you are a parent and you're communicating to teachers, you want to be clear in what you're calling or contacting them for. They have, a full class of students and they want to make sure that they're going to support you as well as they can, in an effective way. So be clear about why you're communicating. Next, second, be concise. Now, there might be a number of things you're worried about, but you want to be very to the point, not fool around. If you're an educator, you want to keep it short and sweet because parents usually are cooking dinner, they're getting their family together in the evenings or whenever, or they're at work if you're calling during the day. So keep it short, be concise, to the point, like I said before. And parents to teachers, there's a lot going on. Teachers are grading papers, teachers are doing a lot of things for prep. And like I said, they have a whole class of students. So keep it short, keep it to the point. Third, you want to make sure that you are consistent. If you are a teacher, now you consistently want to communicate with parents on a regular basis. That means communicating with parents at the beginning of the year to introduce yourselves, at least somewhere in the middle of the year or for student conferences, and at the end of the year, kind of like a wrap up of how the student had been doing. And this may or may not be a phone call, this could be electronic communications or through Parent Square or whatever medium that the school uses, but being consistent and making sure that you are communicating on a regular basis and that it's not just once in a while or never. I know that sometimes it is kind of a fear for educators to communicate with parents for whatever reason. It might be a stressor that, having to communicate with a parent about their student for any number of reasons, but it is important that that's done on a regular basis. And as you do it more, you get more comfortable with it. It's not as big a deal. For parents, being consistent with communication is important for you as well. Making sure that you're touching base and connecting and figuring out how your student is doing on a regular basis and not just leaving it up to the student or your child to tell you what's going on because hey, there is certain things that they will easily volunteer, but then there's many things that children will not share readily with their parents. So those are the three different strategies: being clear, concise, and consistent in communication when you are working in communication between teacher and parent, parent to teacher. Communication is so important. I mean, that is key. And it's the way that you foster a relationship that's going to be working towards the benefit of the child, ultimately. So, after going over those three C's, being clear, concise, and consistent, something else I want to take note of or share with you about communicating between teacher, parent, parent, and teacher is maybe keeping a log or a record of some sort of those communications. Now, ideally, you hope that everything is going to be hunky dory, it's going to be fine, and that you have nothing to worry about. But sometimes, especially when it comes to special education, there may be some disputes. There may be some things that are not being met. So, say, for example, if the parent has made a request or they are concerned about the services that are being provided or not being provided, a parent may want to keep a note and a record of when they communicated, what they asked for, and whether or not those needs are being met, or if the teachers conveyed that those tasks have been done. On the other side, too, now if there is an educator and there's an IEP involved, and parents are not responsive or they're not really facilitating that connection, and the IEP is not signed or it's not being followed through in any way on the parents' end, educators want to make sure that they are clearly keeping record of that communication with a log, if there are certain things that are being disputed, even, keeping everything in writing by email. So again, you hope that everything's going to turn out great, but in the real world, sometimes there are some disputes and things that don't go well, and you want to make sure that you're covering your bases and keeping it on a log and in writing. This is Alicia, entirely psyched. I will see you next time.
I hope you liked what you watched, and if you did, please subscribe. I have much more to come as a school psychologist, as a mental health provider, as someone who is navigating their own mental health and wellness. I plan on sharing my journey to obtain my LEP, Licensed Educational Psychologist licensure, and doing the exam. I am scheduled to do the exam in a matter of weeks. I'm going to have different videos on that, as well as different techniques to survive school systems and different techniques to support students with different disabilities. Lots to come. Subscribe.